I got a question for you. Do you like free spells? Today's commander has only one goal in mind, and that is to play cards for free from the hand. Yes, the spells you actually play are going to cost some mana, but the end result is going to be that you will get a bunch of really big, really discounted, and by discounted I mean completely free, giant artifacts on the board, and your opponents are going to have to deal with the end result of you doing that. Today's commander is going to be none other than the version of Jhoira that doesn't actually create game states where you just play solitaire. Anyway. Jhoira, Ageless Innovator, is a Izzet commander with the ability to tap and add 2 Ingenuity counters to herself. If she has Ingenuity counters on her after she taps, she then lets you play any artifact from your hand onto the battlefield for free if its mana value is equal to or less than the number of counters she has on her. So, Jhoira gets to tap, put 2 Ingenuity counters on herself, and then play a 2 mana or less artifact for free. This, of course, goes for 4 mana or less, 6 mana or less, 8 mana or less, every single time you do this. Now, this normally would mean that with Jhoira, we are trying to get a bunch of turns to happen so that we can play bigger and bigger spells, but because we are going to be leaning very heavily into this effect, we are going to be trying to untap Jhoira and get a big amount of value out of her, not only by casting lots of individual cards, but also being able to get to those big chonky casts as fast as possible. In order to facilitate this, let's go ahead and talk about the ways we are going to untap and manipulate Jhoira. First of which being the Corridor Monitor. When this enters the battlefield, we can untap an artifact or a creature we control. So the move is very simple. We look at Jhoira and we tap her. Boom. She uses her ability, and after using her ability, she'll put 2 counters on herself, and those 2 counters will be used to play a Corridor Monitor, which will then untap Jhoira and allow you to tap her again to play a 4 mana or lower artifact instead. Then we're also going to have a Refocus to untap a creature and draw a card, a Forensic Researcher, which can untap any permanent we control, Stony Book Angler, which can do the same thing for 2 mana, Kelpie Guide, which can do the same thing, a Puppeteer, which can do the same thing for 1 mana, and Niblis of the Breath, which can do the same thing for 1 mana. All of these have the ability to give Jhoira an extension on what she is doing. So now we just have to ask the question, what is the end goal in all of this? And the end goal here is to play these big chunky artifacts and make our opponent's life totals look somewhat closer to their bank account balances after a new Magic the Gathering set comes out. So let's go ahead and talk about each of these big fluffy boys. Furnace Hellkite, a 5/5 dragon that has fire breathing, and it has affinity for artifacts, so it itself can come down really powerfully if you need to. Sharding Sphinx, which costs 6 mana and makes a lot of Thopters as your creatures make face with our opponents. Mirror Battlesphere, which makes a ton of 1/1 tokens when it comes out and has a burn ability. Threefold Thunderhulk, which makes a bunch of 1/1 tokens when it comes out and can proceed to make more throughout the game. Triplicate Titan, which is a 9/9 with Flying Vigilance and Trample, which can make token counters or token copies of itself when it dies, but the copies are all 1/3 of the Triplicate Titan, so you make a 3/3 Flyer, a 3/3 Vigilance, and a 3/3 Trample. Then the Phyrexian Triniform, which is a 9/9, which has a very similar effect of just coming out on the board, dying, and then making a bunch of 3/3 colorless Phyrexians. We're also going to be running an Artificer's Dragon because our token producers need to have a payoff, and the Artificer's Dragon gives everything on our board fire breathing. We pay 1 mana, and it all gets 1/0. So if we have a board of like 5 1/1s and the Artificer's Dragon swings and we pay 5 mana, those 5 1/1s are all swinging for 6 each. That's very dangerous. Then we have Inkwell Leviathan. This is a trample island walk creature with Shroud. Hard to get rid of, and it does a lot of work throughout a game of Magic. Steel Hellkite, which can get rid of problematic cards on our opponent's boards and also has a pseudo fire breathing effect. Brutaclad, which can take all of the tokens we talked about and turn them into copies of other tokens. Imagine all of the Thopters from the Sharding Sphinx being turned into mirrors from Mirror Battlesphere, and then the Mirror Battlesphere swinging at an opponent with a giant bit of burn damage. Then we have Metalwork Colossus, which is a 10/10 that can cost less to cast based on the mana value of all of our non-creature artifacts, and of course can sacrifice our artifacts to come back to our hand from the graveyard. We already went over a copying ability with Brutaclad, but let's go ahead and add a little bit more with Saheeli Sublime Artificer. Whenever we cast our non-creature spells, we get to put a 1/1 colorless servo out onto the battlefield, and we can make any artifact we control become a copy of a different artifact or creature we control. And then, of course, we have a Replicant Specialist as well, which says when we have non-token artifacts enter the battlefield, we can pay 2 mana and create copies of those. So imagine the Specialist comes out, it's been out for a turn or two, we play Mirror Battlesphere with our Jhoira, and then we pay 2 mana to get extra Mirror Battlespheres, giving us a board of 10 creatures, not counting what we already had out on the board prior to that. Let's also put a Lieutenant in the deck just in case. Master Transmuter. This card allows us to return artifacts from our board to our hand in order to play any from our deck onto, or from our hand onto the battlefield. This is basically another version of our commander's effect and is a great backup in case our commander ever happens to die. As for getting these cards back if they ever happen to leave, let's put a Scrap Welder, a Trading Post, and a Duretti Rocketing Engineer, because all of these have the ability to get rid of artifacts we control and trade them out for artifacts in our graveyards. And of course, that is it for the core strategy of the deck. Untap Jhoira a bunch, play really big dudes, and hope for the best. But that does ask a very important question. How are we getting enough powerful cards in our hand to make use of these effects? Well, we are running a 15-card draw package to get through our deck and make sure that we always have free things to play with Jhoira. Reverse Engineer can draw us 3 cards by tapping artifacts. Hull Drifter is an artifact which draws us 2 cards, which Jhoira can throw down. Thirst for Knowledge draws us 3 cards and then discards an artifact. Reality Heist lets us look at the top 7 cards of our deck and throw 2 artifacts from our deck into our hand. It also has basically affinity for artifacts. Combustible Gear Hulk enters and lets us choose an opponent, and they can either have us draw 3 cards or mill 3 cards and burn them for the very high cost of our artifacts. Shimmer Dragon can tap artifacts to draw us cards. One with the Machine draws us cards based on the most expensive artifact we have. Sky Scanner is just an artifact that draws us a card when it comes out. Thopter Spy Network allows us to draw cards whenever our creatures make face with our opponent. It also makes Thopters in its own right. Research Thief does the same thing. If our artifacts deal combat damage to an opponent, we get to draw a card. Thought Monitor draws us 2 cards when it touches the board and has affinity. Everflowing Well draws us cards when it touches the board and has the ability to flip into the Myriad Pools, which can make any of our cards become copies of other cards if need be. Ichor Wellspring draws us a card when it comes onto the battlefield and when it goes away. Biden Thassa allows us to draw cards when our creatures make face, and Mystic Forge allows us to play artifacts and color the spells from the top of our library whenever we want. We can also pay 1 life to exile the top card of our library if we do not like it. Those all together should allow us to dig through our deck at a rapid pace to get everything we need to play the game. But we do still need to make sure that our opponents are heavily disrupted. So let's go ahead and talk about our removal package. We're going to be running 8 pieces of targeted removal and 2 board wipes, a lower amount than normal, but we are a very focused deck on trying to linearly do our thing. So we have the counter spells of Negate to get rid of non-creature spells, Assert Authority to get rid of anything with affinity for artifacts, so it can cost a lot less, Is It Charm to get rid of non-creature spells on the stack or blow up creatures or draw if we need it, and then Resculpt to get rid of creatures or artifacts, Abrade to get rid of creatures or artifacts, Duplicant to exile any creature that we don't like, Meteor Golem to blow up anything that we don't like on the board at all, and also to look damn fucking good while doing it, and a Spine of Ishath for people who really like Meteor Golem and want to have a second copy of it in their deck without a stat line. As for our board wipes, we're going to run an Oblivion Stone to get rid of everything we do not like, period, and a Delete to blow up all the non-artifact creatures on the board, as long as we have the mana to sink into Delete. Not the biggest and most expansive removal package as I would like, but it should serve the purpose of allowing us to play through the game without dying. That all said, let's go ahead and make sure that we have enough mana to play our cards with our ramp package. All right. right, let's go ahead and talk about our ramp spells. We are running 9 ramp spells and 1 card that does not ramp us but still serves a secondary purpose. That card is a Mycosynth Wellspring. For 2 mana, you get a land from your deck into your hand, and then if it dies, you get the same effect again. Just a backup plan in case we do not get our color fixing. But then we have the 2 mana rocks of Fire Diamond and Sky Diamond. We have the and Mind Stone. Each of these comes out really early and gives us good mana. Then we have the 3 mana rocks of Commander Sphere and Bonder's Ornament, as these both allow us to draw cards if we need to. And an Honored Heirloom, which is actually our 10th ramp spell because I forgot to include it earlier, and that was my bad. But Honored Heirloom allows us to get rid of problematic cards in graveyards to stop reanimation players from having fun. Then we had the 4 mana rocks of Hedron Archive and Stonespeaker Crystal, which can both be sacrificed to draw a card, but can also be used in case of Stonespeaker Crystal to get rid of problematic graveyard cards if we need. Then we have a Solemn Simulacrum, which gets us a basic land from the deck and draws us a card whenever it dies. Basically one of the best value engines you can think of in a game of Commander, if only it didn't cost so much mana. But I think it's perfectly fine, because anybody that says that the format's too fast for Sad Robot should just shut the fuck up and go play Modern, because that seems to be the game that they actually want to be playing, not Commander. As for lands, we are running 14 islands and 10 mountains because our deck does lean more into the blue side. And for our dual lands, we have a Command Tower, Frostboil Snarl, Exotic Orchard, Spire of Industry, Ferris Lake, and then Izzard Boiler Works because it can get rid of our utility lands and allow us to replay them, and a Temple of Epiphany because it does give us early access to top deck manipulation. For fetching lands, we'll run an Evolving Wilds, an Escape Tunnel, and a Terramorphic Expanse, as these are all copies of the same card. Promising Vein and Shire Terrace, as these give us access to lands that are untapped that can also be used for mana fixing if we need. A Myriad Landscape to ramp if we need, and an Ash Barrens to basic land cycle if we are missing any of our deck's colors. Finally, for utility lands, let's add in a Pit of Offerings to get rid of problematic graveyard cards if they ever arise. That all said, that is everything the deck is trying to go for. We want to be playing big artifacts, and we should have all the mana to make that happen. But if you still want to know how to play the deck, then stick around, because we are going to talk about just that. You know, I'm going to be honest, I think most hands that have an artifact to be played and, well, the lands that we need to play Jhoira are fine. I'm going to actually stick with this opening hand. It has only a single artifact, but I think we'll be okay. Temple of Epiphany comes out after we draw our first card, and it sees that we have a Spire of Industry up top. We don't need that given what we have access to already, so let's throw that away and move into the next turn. There's a Thopter Spy Network. Let's go ahead and tap 2. Boom. There's Jhoira. We move into the next turn, and let's go ahead and play an island. Tap Jhoira, get her ingenuity counters, tap 3, and play Command Sphere. We move into turn 4, and let's do this. Let's tap Jhoira and get the Hedron Archive out for free. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana available. Let's do... Let's get that Thopter Spy Network out, actually. That's the move, I think. Thopter Spy Network is out. And maybe there was a way we could have sequenced this a little better. We have 3 mana available. No, not really. We have 1, 2. We have 2 artifacts out. Reality Heist can't be discounted more. Yeah, that's just where we're at right now. We go into our next turn, and we, of course, make a Thopter token because of the Spy Network, and we've drawn an island. Let's play that island. Jhoira will now add a bunch more ingenuity counters to herself when she taps. So let's go ahead and 6. Yeah, we'll tap her. 6 puts out the Artificer's Dragon, gives her 2 more. And now I think we're in a good spot to just play the Reality Heist. So we tap the Hedron Archive and these to play Sad Robot. That goes into our library and gets an island out. Boom. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 mana available with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 artifacts. That means we have exactly enough for the Reality Heist to grab us really good cards. So looking at our top 7, I think Bident of Thassa is a no-brainer as well as a duplicate. This lets us get rid of problematic things. Actually, you know what? Yeah, because it only gets us artifacts. So we can't get the Nihilus of the Breath. So that's actually fine. We do that on our opponent's turns. And when our turn comes up, we have a 1 with the machine. That's not a bad thing to draw right now. In fact, actually, I'm fairly confident in using it to draw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards, and then looking at our opponents and saying that we are in a very, very good spot. We have 5 mana available. Tapping Jhoira will allow us to freely drop down any of these cards. I think the Steel Hellkite needs to come down. And then we can tap, let's see here. These are available. They are fine to use. Let's tap 2 to get the Fire Diamond out. And 1, 2, 3 to get the Ever-Flowing Well out, which allows us to mill 2 cards and draw 2 cards. Now we are in a very, very decent spot in terms of what all we have access to. We could punch an opponent with the Artificer's Dragon and a Thopter, and that'll draw us 2 cards. Now let's go ahead and discard down. We don't need the Hull Drifter or the Thirst for Knowledge at this stage of the game, and we definitely want to keep a few of these, though. I think we need the board wipe in case things go awry. Maybe the Stony Brook Angler isn't super necessary right now. Man, it's actually a really hard choice. This may be a deck that really wants a Reliquary Tower to function well. So let's go ahead and say that the Stony Brook Angler is the thing that goes away. And Descend 8. I can't flip this yet. Look at our opponents. They don't do anything to us here. I mean, a board wipe may be the thing to do to us, honestly. Kelpie Guide, that's an okay draw. All right, so we have Jhoira available. He's going to be able to freely drop down Phyrexian Triniform. That's a very, very strong move. I want this Mystic Forge out right now, though, and I need to keep all of my blue mana or my red mana available. So we're going to do Mystic Forge. We can look at the top of our deck. It's a Promising Vein. And we are able to cast spells and colorless spells from the top. So we are going to get rid of this vein to look at the top here. It's an island. That doesn't put us in a great spot. 1, 2, 3, 4. We want to keep up Negate. So the move is going to be swing with the dragon and, yeah, the dragons and these Thopters. And then we are going to pay 1, 2, 3, 4 to give them all 4-0 because of the dragon. So we are swinging in with 10 power, 18 power. We are swinging up a 27 power right now, and during our opponent's turn, we will negate anything that they do. And of course, at the end of their turn, we are going to tap her, get out our Phyrexian Triniform for free, and then be just snide as hell. We draw our island. We have the Phyrexian Triniform. We're in a very good spot. The top of our deck is an island. Let's tap the Mystic Forge to get rid of that. The top of our deck is a Frostboil Snarl. We could dig that out of our deck if we wanted to, because we do have the ability to draw cards with Thopter Spy Network. So maybe we do that. We go ahead and swing with everything. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we'll keep the Triniform up as a blocker. It's a 9/9 blocker, which makes life really difficult for our opponents. It doesn't have evasion, so we don't need to worry about that too much. And we're going to pay 1, 2, 3, 4. Give everything 4-0 again. It hits our opponents, and we draw 1, 2, 3 cards from the Spy Network, meaning that our top card with Mystic Forge is a Thought Monitor. Thanks to Mystic Forge, we do have the ability to pay 1 mana, play that Thought Monitor in main phase 2 to draw 2 cards, and our top card is a Sharding Sphinx. We 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We actually do have the ability to play the Sharding Sphinx to put us in a really good position, and our land per turn can just be the Frostboil Snarl at this point. We will have to discard down, but I'd say that we're in a very strong position. We've got the ability to be super aggro. We've got the ability to rebuild with Trading Post and Scrap Welder if we get hit. We've got a Bident of Thassa as a backup in case Thopter Spy Network goes away. And if they kill our Jhoira, we just retaliate with Delete to get rid of everything our opponents have, because all of our board is just artifacts at this point now. So I'd say we're in a very powerful spot. But what would we do if we had a little bit more money to add into this deck? As you're upgrading your deck, a Tamiyo's Logbook can go a long way in extending your turns, as it does benefit from all of your untap other permanent abilities. Mechanized Production gives you an alternate win con with the ability to clone lots of powerful artifacts. Trash for Treasure is another way to get great artifacts from your grave back onto the battlefield. Sting, the Glinting Dagger, should go into your deck along with the Logbook, as you are getting more untapped synergies, because being able to use Jhoira multiple times a turn cycle is fantastically powerful. And for giant things to drop down with Jhoira, consider a Darksteel Colossus as an 11/11 indestructible dude, Portal to Phyrexia to get rid of problematic indestructible creatures while also reviving tons and tons of powerful dudes, Simulacrum Synthesizer to give you another alternate win con with gigantic tokens, and a Darksteel Forge to protect your precious board state. A Swiftfoot Boots and a Lightning Greaves also are fantastic, as they cost 2 mana, so they come down very quickly with Jhoira and can protect her. A Phyrexian Metamorph can clone your and even your opponent's most powerful cards while being an artifact, and an Artificer's Class is a fantastic way to give your opponents a ticking time bomb. Since you don't need to spend a lot of mana with Jhoira, you can just let her do her thing, playing your artifacts for free, while you are sinking your precious mana into the abilities of the Artificer class, eventually allowing you to create token copies of powerful artifacts, like Simulacrum Synthesizer, which would be a very mean thing to do to your opponents. Don't do that. I'm just kidding. Definitely do that. Make them regret playing the game with you. Be the problem. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. I had a great time making this deck, and it's one that I actually want to play in paper as well when I get a chance. But for the time being, I do want to say, if you have enjoyed my content, please consider supporting me by heading over to my live streams on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I also have a separate politics channel where I talk about real life stuff, if that is your bag. I also have ways to directly support me over on Fourth Wall with my playmat and over on patreon.com. Finally, if you haven't already considered supporting this channel by subscribing and hitting the bell notification icon, please consider doing so. That all said, thank you all for watching my content, and hopefully I'll see you all in the next one. Insert end video tagline here. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. I really could not do any of this without all of you. Those of you watching, and especially those of you who support me on Patreon. I wanted to go ahead and take a minute to thank all of you who do that, because with YouTube being what it is these days, I really cannot do this full-time without the support from each and every one of you. Those people would be Red Joker, Purple Poundini, Jemshin, Briskreek, Jupe the Malignant, Michael, Ravalern, Mabbity Babbity, Astral Frontier, Tales of Atonement, Nixie Chan, Kiri Artemis, Victorian Alchemist, I'm not saying the last part of that, and you know that, Arcton Arclacier, Kiratorian, Dren Hadamata, Jordan M, John L, Lord Bleck, Smiling Game Master, and Fireshard. Thank you so very much. But since you're here, why not go ahead and try watching another one? There should be one that's on the screen right now. And if you are a patron of mine, I wanted to go ahead and thank you again for all of your support. There is still a video you could press though, if you'd like. I would appreciate it just a little bit.